Mark Strassman, reporter with the Marijuana Channel. We're about to speak to Patrick Killen, who's the communications director for the Committee to Regulate and Control Marijuana in Nevada, the CRCM. Welcome to the Marijuana Channel.
Great, thanks for having me.
Tell us what Nevada Ballot Question 7 asks the voters of Nevada.
Well, it essentially asks the voters of Nevada, are our marijuana laws working? What it would do is remove small amounts of marijuana, remove marijuana from the criminal market, where it funds the activities of violent gangs and drug dealers, and it would allow the sale and possession of up to 1 ounce of marijuana by adults in Nevada.
Okay. Give us a brief history of efforts to implement marijuana reform previously through the Nevada legislature, and how far that's gone and how far it hasn't gone.
Well, Nevada used to have one of the strictest marijuana laws in the country. Even possession of small amounts was a felony under the law.
How recently was that?
In 2001, they passed an effort to decriminalize marijuana. Basically, it would, possession of an ounce or less, the first 3 offenses, actually the first offense was a misdemeanor with a $600 fine. And then as you went on from there, your threat of going to prison would go up, even under decriminalization. So, what we're saying is that, even that policy is not working. The sale of marijuana is still funding the activities of violent gangs and drug dealers, and it's time for a sensible alternative.
How active are Nevada authorities in enforcing that law, and how many people are affected by it as it now stands?
In 2005, nearly 5,000 people were arrested for the simple possession of marijuana in Nevada, and that's actually more people than the arrests for rape, aggravated assault, murder, manslaughter, and robbery combined.
And what was the disposition of those 5,000 arrests? People were arrested, taken to jail, booked, and put in holding cells?
I actually don't know that information. The information I'm quoting is from the Nevada Department of Public Safety.
Right.
And their statistics show that there were nearly 5,000 arrests. And I should also note that along the way, Nevada spent $42 million making those nearly 5,000 arrests. And while 2/3 of violent crimes in Nevada went unsolved.
How many?
2/3 of violent crimes in Nevada went unsolved while they were arresting these people for simple marijuana possession.
So an important part of your argument is that law enforcement efforts, energy, and money could be better spent going after violent criminals rather than marijuana users.
Absolutely.
Okay. Give us, again, a brief history of marijuana-themed initiatives on the Nevada ballot, what they've been, when they were on, and how they fared.
In 2002, there was a constitutional amendment on the ballot. It's different from the initiative that we're talking about here. This is a statutory initiative. There was a constitutional amendment on the ballot that would that set up a basic idea of what we're trying to do, whereas our initiative is very detailed and has sensible safeguards on the sale of marijuana in the state.
Did the constitutional amendment go down to defeat?
Yeah, 61 to 39%.
And so, again, how does Ballot Question 7 now differ from the one that lost previously?
Well, again, it's a statutory amendment. It only has to pass once. It will take effect once the election results are certified on November 28th, and it details several things: the system of license, taxation, and regulation for marijuana in Nevada, penalties on giving or selling to a minor, penalties for killing or seriously injuring somebody while under the influence, driving under the influence of marijuana.
Okay. Tell us about the organization or organizations that put Ballot Question 7 on the ballot this year.
Just before I go into that, I'd also like to add that Nevada debated medical marijuana.
Right. Tell us how that debate went and what the results were.
In 1996, Actually, it was in 1998 and 2000.
Right.
The state of Nevada debated this issue, and both times it was a constitutional amendment, so it had to pass twice, and both times it was passed overwhelmingly.
Passed by the voters.
Absolutely, passed by the voters overwhelmingly.
And what does it provide, and how big a medical marijuana situation is there in Nevada now?
In the state of Nevada, they currently have about 1,500 people in
working out pretty well, or has it been running into problems either internally or with the federal government?
No, it's been working out well. The Nevada Department of Agriculture is the organization that maintains that program. And unfortunately, the program does not give patients a safe or legal way to obtain their medicine. And what Question 7 would do is by taxing and regulating marijuana, it would allow patients to purchase their medicine in a safe and legal way.
How do they purchase their medicine now?
They have to buy it from drug dealers.
Okay.
Or they have to grow it on their own.
All right. Who or what will be allowed to sell marijuana under Question 7 passes?
Basically, the people that would be responsible for its cultivation and manufacture would be licensed wholesalers. Basically, it could be private businesses who obtain an annual license from the Nevada Department of Taxation. And then those wholesalers would only be allowed to sell to retailers. Again, retailers would also be licensed by the State Department of Taxation.
Would the retailers be required to undergo security checks, criminal record checks by the state?
That would be up to the Nevada Department of Taxation as they implement the initiative. From the date that it goes into effect, which if it passes on November 7th, that would be November 28th,
right.
The Department of Taxation has 180 days to fully implement the act and to deal with situations like that.
Okay, now, how are the wholesalers going to operate? Are they going to be growing the marijuana themselves?
Absolutely. It gives them the legal right to cultivate, manufacture, and package for retail sale small amounts of marijuana.
Now, the amount available for sale will be small amounts, 1 ounce or less, right?
Correct. It's up to 1 ounce.
All right. And the wholesalers, will there be limits on how much they can grow?
They have to look back into the initiative on that and probably get back to you if I could. But
basically, I want to understand whether they'll be able to buy farmland, buy seeds, plant them, irrigate them, maintain them, harvest them, and so on.
Absolutely.
Without any interference by any state authority.
Correct. The initiative does state that they have the ability to cultivate and manufacture and package for sale these small amounts of marijuana to retailers. So,
right. Who do you expect will get into that business? Existing marijuana growers, outside multinational corporations, or what kind of people or organizations do you expect will become marijuana wholesalers and growers in Nevada under Question 7?
Yeah, I don't have a crystal ball, so I can't tell you that. But
any of those options will be legal. An entrepreneur or General Electric, if they wanted to, could do this.
Absolutely. I mean, whoever the individual is, they have to make sure that they obtain the $1,000 annual license from the Department of Taxation and abide by the rules and regulations.
And again, will there be criminal background checks or credit checks or security checks for the people or organizations that want to become wholesalers?
Like I said, those are regulations that will be developed by the Nevada Department of Taxation, and I'm sure that they would handle it similar to the way they handle tobacco wholesalers and retailers and alcohol wholesalers and retailers.
Okay. Will the retailers need to have storefronts, or can they operate out of their homes or apartments?
There are very clear regulations on where they can do this. It can't be within 500 feet of a school or a place of worship. They would have to maintain very strict regulations on who could enter the store.
Can convenience stores or grocery stores or other existing commercial operations become licensed retailers of marijuana under this law?
No, it specifically states that marijuana cannot be sold in convenience stores or gas stations or grocery stores or nightclubs. Basically, anywhere that alcohol is sold, you will not be able to purchase marijuana, and that includes casinos as well.
Where it's served. What about liquor stores?
Absolutely not. Nowhere that alcohol is sold in any form.
Okay, so from what you said, though, a person could either open up a storefront or be in a mall or operate out of their own home or apartment as long as they were not within the specified nearness to a school or a house of worship. Is that right?
I'd have to probably check into the home argument. I know that home cultivation is not allowed under this initiative, but, you would have to maintain it like a business, and I mean if that's a home-based business, I'm not sure what the rules and regs are on that, but I know absolutely the key requirements are you can't be within 500 feet of a school or a place of worship.
Right. Now I don't know what it's like except what I see on television in Las Vegas and other cities. Are there merchants who have carts who wander around selling hats, hot dogs, or other products who could convert to, or similar people could set themselves up as street vendors of marijuana as long as they were 500 feet from a school or a church?
The initiative specifically states that you have to be 21 or older with a valid ID to get into a store.
So into a store means there's got to be something to get into.
Absolutely.
Okay. And talk about the procedures under the law according to which the retailers will work with the wholesalers to get their product.
Retailers will be able to purchase the marijuana from the wholesalers, and every ounce that goes from a wholesaler to a retailer has a $45 per ounce excise tax on it.
So the excise tax plus the sales tax is executed between the wholesaler and the retailer.
The excise tax is, the sales tax is levied at the retail level.
But the excise tax is executed at the wholesale level?
Yes. Basically, when the wholesaler sells to the retailer,
right,
the retailer would have to, the wholesaler has to collect the excise tax, so, they'd be collecting it from the retailer.
And the wholesaler is the one who remits the excise tax to the state?
Correct.
So, and it would be up to the wholesaler whether they needed to collect it up front or during or after the retail sale?
Absolutely.
So, and what's the size of that tax? Is it set in the regulation?
It is. It's $45 per ounce.
So, to do some very, very simple math, if a retail, are there limits on how much the retailers can have on hand and stock?
The only limit is that they can only sell up to, up to 1 ounce, and the individual purchasing it can only possess up to an ounce.
Right, but the inventory that the retailers can have doesn't have a limit set on it.
Yeah, not that I'm aware of in the initiative. But,
okay. Obviously, this legalizes marijuana to the point that if someone robbed the retailer or the wholesaler, the full force of the state investigative and enforcement resources would be used to reclaim that merchandise and prosecute the robbers, wouldn't it?
It would be treated like any other consumer product, whether it's alcohol or tobacco or cheese.
Okay, and again, the retailers say if they ordered 100 ounces of marijuana, they would owe $4,500 to the wholesaler, who would then owe that money to the state.
To the state, correct.
Okay, where's that tax money going to go?
It goes into the state's general fund, half of which will go to drug education, alcohol education, and treatment programs. The other half would go to the general fund to take care of Nevada's most pressing needs.
Okay. Is there any expectation that the money that goes into the education programs will diminish the market for the product and put itself out of business in some way?
I wish I could predict that. I don't know the answer to that.
Do you have any estimate of how much marijuana will be sold, and therefore how much tax money would be raised for the state in the first year or going forward under Question 7?
The University of Nevada at Las Vegas did a study in 2002 that found that if you regulated marijuana similar to the way we're proposing, it could generate up to, or at least, $28.6 million annually. So,
26, so that's about, that's about 500,000 ounces sold per year?
I don't have the particulars. I could get that for you. But half of that money, of the $28.6 million, roughly $14 million would go to drug education, alcohol education, and treatment programs, and the other half would go to the general fund.
Okay. Marijuana users will be able to buy up to an ounce. They can buy any portion of that they want under this law, right? They don't have to buy an ounce.
Correct.
Well, what about the sale? But the excise tax will have been levied on the retailers, so it doesn't figure into that calculation of the tax. Will they'll have to pay normal sales tax?
It's just going to be like any other business, that has excise taxes and sales tax.
What's the sales tax in Nevada?
I believe the sales tax in Las Vegas is about 7.75%. It varies from community to community.
Okay. What do you expect that the prices will be for marijuana sold through the retail system set up by Question 7 And how will that compare with prices on the black market now?
Well, I would say that the criminal market cannot compete with a legally regulated one.
Can't compete because of price?
I think price, safety, quality, and as far as what the price of an ounce of marijuana would be, I mean, that would be up to whatever free market is created by the system.
But it's your understanding, it's an underpinning of this whole process, that the price will be less at these retail stores than it is on the street. Is that right?
Well, I would say that violent gangs and drug dealers made a lot of money off of alcohol during Prohibition.
Right.
And when Prohibition ended,
right.
It shifted to.
And people don't sell bootleg alcohol anymore.
Absolutely.
By and large.
You don't see people selling beer on the street corners. That's true.
Okay. What's the difference between legalizing the possession of 1 ounce, as this law does, with, say, 3 ounces in terms of its legality? It becomes legal in either case. What's the difference, really?
Well, 1 ounce, we think, is a reasonable amount. That's the same amount that's allowed to medical marijuana patients in the state of Nevada.
Right, but essentially, the crosses a line between making it legal to have any amount and having no amount, right? And the only real difference between legalizing it with 1 ounce versus 3 is people would have to go back 3 times as often if they wanted the same amount.
I'm not sure exactly where you're trying to go, but
I'm trying to understand whether there's a difference in quantity between 1 ounce and 3. Is there a difference in quality? Essentially, the big decision is going from making any possession of any amount of marijuana illegal to making any amount legal, which is what this does. So it really is not cutting back on usage. People can buy an ounce today and buy an ounce tomorrow, can't they?
As long as they don't have more than 1 ounce on their person.
Right. Can they have more than 1 ounce in their residence,
No.
their car?
No, not at all.
Only 1 ounce.
Right, correct. Only 1 ounce.
If they have 2 cars, can they have 1 ounce in each car?
No, not at all. For an individual at any given time can only possess up to 1 ounce of marijuana.
Okay, and possess means whether it's on their person or in their residence or under their control.
Absolutely.
Okay. What about importing marijuana from places other than Nevada? Do these wholesalers need to grow their marijuana in Nevada?
Yes, it can only be grown in Nevada.
So the law makes no provision for the importation into Nevada of marijuana grown in California or Hawaii or Thailand or any place?
Not at all. Not at all. This marijuana that's sold by licensed wholesalers and retailers must come from Nevada.
Okay. Let's say a person buys black market pot and has less than an ounce, and they're stopped by the police. What are their legal rights to possess the ounce of marijuana that they purchased on the black market from an internal or external to Nevada source?
They would, the only requirement on them is that they have no more than 1 ounce of marijuana on their person.
And if they have less than 1 ounce, they're not subject to any more arrest than someone who purchased the marijuana from a state licensed store.
Right. I mean, as long as they have 1 ounce or less on their person, they shouldn't be subject to any criminal penalties or investigations.
Okay. What in the law will stop minors from acquiring pot illegally on the black market?
The initiative has an increase in penalties. It doubles the penalty for anyone who gives or sells marijuana to a minor.
What are the penalties on the minors themselves for possessing marijuana these days?
I don't have the exact jail time and things of that type, but
are they subject to the same
absolutely. If you're under,
you mentioned earlier that adults are?
If you're under 21 years of age, you will not be able to possess marijuana.
Under the law?
Under the law.
It's now illegal for people under 21 to possess it, and many do.
So it doesn't change that. Where they're finding it, I mean, they're getting it on the criminal market.
Right.
In Nevada, half of high school seniors have used marijuana, and 20% of high school seniors here in Nevada use it habitually.
Right.
And that's why Question 7 would implement a card program for marijuana.
Right. If a 16-year-old is in possession of less than an ounce of marijuana, will will they be subject to arrest?
Absolutely.
After Question 7 passes?
Absolutely. This doesn't change any of the possession rules for people under the age of 21.
So the rule that says you can possess 1 ounce only applies to people over 21, wherever it comes from.
Correct.
Okay. Are you very certain that the black market won't be able to provide? You just said that the retailers under Question 7 won't be able to sell marijuana raised anywhere except in Nevada, right?
Yes.
So, is there anything to stop the illegal operations from offering marijuana grown in California, Hawaii, Thailand, or anywhere else as they do now?
Well, then again, I mean, we get back to this debate. Do we have people selling beer on street corners? And we do not.
Right.
You know, and if you want to talk about the smuggling of marijuana, that's already happening.
Right.
Under our current laws, and those laws have failed, and that's why we're trying to adopt a sensible alternative to those laws.
Right, I understand that. My question is whether this law in itself will do anything to discourage the growing elsewhere, the importation and the sale in Nevada of varieties of marijuana that aren't grown by the wholesalers.
There are laws on the books that prevent that, and those laws are not changed.
Okay. Say something about Nevada as a special case where gambling is legal. It's my understanding prostitution is legal. What sets Nevada apart, do you think, from other states? And do you think did that play some part in deciding to do this legislation in Nevada?
The reason this is on the ballot in Nevada is because 86,000 Nevadans signed a petition to put it on the ballot, and that's why it's being debated. You know, Nevada is, you know, it's a state that values its freedom, and you know, it's you know, made decisions in the past, especially with medical marijuana, for example, and you know, it's an interesting state.
Okay. Talk about the organization that's running this campaign. What's it called?
It's the organization that I work for is the Committee to Regulate and Control Marijuana.
Okay. And what are its origins, bylaws, and funding?
It is its parent organization is the Marijuana Policy Project, and here in Nevada, you know, we have a lot of supporters of the campaign, and we're proud to have, you know, support from people around the country.
How much of the campaign is indigenous to Nevada? How much of it comes from the Marijuana Policy Project, and how much of your funding comes from out of state?
I'm going to have you probably do some of that work if you'd like. Our contribution records are on file with the Secretary of State here in Nevada.
Under this law, people don't have to be Nevadans to purchase the marijuana, do they?
It states that you have to be a person who's 21 years of age with a valid government-issued identification, and you know, you use it in the privacy of your own home.
What about the millions of people who come from Los Angeles every year to Las Vegas? Will they be able to purchase marijuana while they're in Nevada?
There are no restrictions on, I mean, just as long as you're 21 years of age or older with a valid ID.
Okay. What about the federal government? Cultivation, sale, possession of use of marijuana, as I understand it, is illegal under U.S. law. What's the activity in Nevada of the federal government in enforcing those laws now, and you expect them to change if Question 7 passes?
You know, when we were debating medical marijuana in Nevada, the federal government said that if it ever passed, they would shut it down. And 5 years later, the program is still alive and well and serving 1,500 medical marijuana patients. You know, Nevada also has a Canadian drug reimportation program in violation of federal law, and the federal government hasn't done anything to it. And we would assert that the people of Nevada are wholly within their rights to pass this law.
Okay, I watched a debate that was recorded and posted on the internet between Neil Levine, the chairman of your organization, and a police officer about Measure 7. And his argument seemed to recall it from the point of view of reefer madness about what he called marijuana intoxication. Well, what's your take on the other side's take about what's so bad about using marijuana?
You know, I don't want to speak for the other side, and whether you want to talk about marijuana being good or bad, that's not the issue here. The issue is our marijuana laws aren't working. It's time to adopt a new policy, and Question 7 is a sensible alternative that would tax and regulate marijuana and take it away from violent gangs and drug dealers.
Okay, I want to talk about the politics of this a little bit. What are the latest polls that you've done and that other organizations have done show the position of Question 7 is among voters right now?
The last poll that came out was in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. There were actually two polls in late September. One of them by Mason-Dixon showed the initiative single digits behind at 9 points behind. And one of the polls that was published in the paper showed the initiative 6 points up. So either way you look at it, this is a single-digit race. It's even, and it's important that people get out and vote on November 7th.
How many people are you expecting to vote, and what's your strategy for getting a majority?
Yeah, I don't want to get into any campaign strategy, but I just want to say that we're working hard to convince people and make sure that people do get out and vote on Election Day.
Okay. How are you using the internet in your campaign?
We have a very well-traveled and extensive website, regulatemarijuana.org. We have a lot of YouTube videos. We allow people who want to volunteer from anywhere in the country can do so through our website.
What out-of-state volunteers do?
Home phone banking. If you have a telephone and a computer, you can sign up as a volunteer and make calls to supporters. And you can also make contributions to the campaign and read about our blog and discuss the issues on our message board.
But to the extent that you want to, could you comment on who's opposing the measure, with the organizations, who's in them, who's funding them, and what their stance is against the initiative?
I would only say that the organization that's organized against us is called the Committee to Keep Nevada Respectable, and they're mainly a coalition of people who don't want to see this initiative pass. But when it comes down to it, I believe that our campaign and our message is the one that will win out on Election Day.
Give our listeners a little bit of an idea about what the discussions are when your volunteers and other staff members talk to the public, and what the questions the public has, what their attitudes are, the bases on which they're deciding which way to vote.
Probably a lot of the questions you've already asked me they come up quite often, and in general, I think the pulse of the people is that our marijuana laws aren't working, and we're talking about Question 7 as being a sensible alternative, and people, as you can imagine, have a lot of questions about the initiative and why we're trying to accomplish this.
Have you seen any differentiation in various demographic groups, particularly younger people versus older people, on the measure?
I personally have not. I know that we're reaching out to every Nevadan, regardless of their age or walk of life.
What kind of national media attention has the campaign received?
We received a lot of national attention when a group of 33 religious leaders here in Nevada from a variety of faiths came forward to endorse the regulation of marijuana. That was covered on CNN and a lot of different
Why
shows.
do you think it gets so much attention?
It's an interesting story because it's people who are pillars of our community coming forward and saying that it's time, that our marijuana laws are broken and they need to be fixed.
TV's Craig Ferguson and the Tonight Show's Jay Leno are constantly making jokes and pretending to be smoking marijuana and making reference to it, and I'm sure a lot of other people on television do that. Did you expect that the passage of Question 7 will do something to sort of change the public perception of marijuana, or will it just strengthen point of views on all sides about whether it's something that ought to be allowed under the law?
I would say that the attitude in general is that our laws aren't working. I mean, we see that in use. We see that in the amount of law enforcement resources that are spent pursuing people who use marijuana responsibly. Overwhelmingly, people agree that the laws aren't working, and I think that will just, it will raise that discussion even more.
What do you expect the impact on the percentage of Nevadans using marijuana is likely to be if the measure passes?
I would say that if you want to get marijuana now, you can. It's so widely available. So why don't we take it out of the hands of violent gangs and drug dealers and tax it and regulate it and put some safeguards on sale?
So you're essentially saying it's not going to increase the usage. It's just going to...
Again, you're asking me to speculate.
Right.
I don't have a crystal ball. I wish I could, but
well, where do you see marijuana in the context of ongoing culture wars in the U.S.? And do you see yourself as a warrior on one side or the other of those culture wars?
I don't. I see myself as a person who believes that our laws have failed, and I'm trying to change them here in Nevada.
And if you succeed in changing them in Nevada, what's the next step for the national marijuana reform movement?
You know what? You'd have to ask someone else because I'll be out of a job by then.
Okay. Are you expecting that you're going to win?
You know, the polls are very, very close, and we're working very hard here. So, you know, I'm confident that the people of the state recognize that our laws don't work.
Give people the URL for the website once more.
It's regulatemarijuana.org.
Thank you very much for talking to us today on the Marijuana Channel.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.